to another episode of the Cellcast.
Dork.
Joining me today is a man who forgot I was about to say something. Welcome, Kirk.
Hello, guys. And joining us is another guy who has no idea what he was supposed to say. Welcome, Andy.
All right, welcome everyone, and the person who's going to correct us with everything we're supposed to say, hopefully, it's Drew.
I can keep from hitting the right buttons on here, screwing up the intro. Anyway, once again, yes, Jacob is still out because he thought he needed to get married. I can't really blame him for this.
He did good.
He did good.
We're proud of him.
But in order to give him some time off, we are of course recording these episodes on shorts with our good friends who agreed to come on with me. And today we're actually looking at two Pixar shorts. In fact, here's a fun bit of trivia. These are the first two Pixar shorts that we've ever reviewed on this show.
Really?
I have no idea how that happened.
That's the only shorts that I know of are Pixar.
That's the first ones that came to my mind when you said shorts.
And see, in my mind, I was going, "Oh, Looney Tunes, Tom and Jerry, the stuff when we were children." But yeah, but actually, I am actually happy we got some Pixar shorts on here.
Yes, it's going to be good, man. I'm very excited for it.
Right. So why don't we just go ahead and get started on this?
Yes.
Let's do it.
The following is a spoiler-filled review for the films Boundin and Lava. Listener discretion is advised. I'm going to go ahead and start with Boundin. And it was written, directed, and narrated, and completely performed by, just not all animated by, Bud Luckey. Who, if you don't know who that is, he was on 50 episodes of Sesame Street playing a character named Donnie Budd. He plays Rick Dicker on The Incredibles. And in Winnie the Pooh 2011, he played Eeyore.
Nice.
Oh, Eeyore.
It was also co-directed by Roger Gould. In this short, a sheep dances proudly in his southwestern landscape until one day his wool is sheared and he is left naked. He's depressed and shy until a cheerful jackalope comes along and shows him how to leap proudly and not be ashamed. Trivia for this was released with the theatrical release of The Incredibles in 2004. The arm that grabs the sheep is actually the arm of the dentist from Finding Nemo. The Model T Ford that enters the scene is actually from Cars. When the sheep is doing its bound and circle around the plane, each animator who worked on the project got to do 2 bounds. Animators nicknamed the rock where the sheep live the Guggenheim Rock due to its similarity to the Guggenheim Museum in New York, which was designed by Frank Lloyd Wright. And when creating the jackalope, its hairstyle was based on that of Western painter Charlie Russell. And that's about all the trivia I got for this. So, Kirk, what's your first like for this?
Yeah, well, I'm the one that chose this one, and I remembered it being with The Incredibles. My first my first like was, and I think, Andy, you might agree, because we've talked about this several times. I just love the narration. I love his voice. Kind of reminds me of like a Jimmy Durante that from like Old Christmas, Frosty the Snowman. I like the I just love a good narration, and in a short 6 minutes, it's real easy to do that. It gave me vibes like you just mentioned, the Looney Tunes, or like the Goofy, whenever they're like showing how to build a cabin or something, and it was just really fun. I loved listening to it.
Andy?
Yeah, so for my my first one at least, kind of along the same lines as you, Kirk, with the narration, but more specifically, I loved that it was narration in rhyme. I love the rhyme. It gives the whole thing this cadence and obviously there's music that's backing it, and that's running in the background, but it makes the whole thing just musical and song, and I love a good rhyme. I love a good cadence to a rhyme. I'm a drummer, so it always just works for my brain to do that, to think in that way. So yes, the narration and the voice, fantastic, love it, but more so the fact that it's just the way, the style in which it's done through the rhymes. That's I love that. It's kind of makes me, I was always a Dr. Seuss guy growing up. I love the Dr. Seuss books, and this just runs right into that kind of style for me. So that's my like.
Awesome.
Yeah.
My first like for this is actually Bud Lucky's narration throughout the whole thing.
There you go.
It really feels like one person is telling the story. I say that because it would have been very easy for them to just hire somebody else to play the sheep.
Yeah.
And no, and Bud Lucky did the whole thing. So it literally feels like one man is telling you the story and doing all the voices for everyone, just like in real life. So I really liked that, and how he told the story, from beginning to end. But yeah, the way he told the story, though, I think really was what I liked.
Yeah. It's a good one, man. It's definitely good. Yeah.
Kirk, what's your second like?
Yeah, it's not going to be very climatic, because I kind of divided mine into two, and I my word here is Seussian. I don't know if that's
that works.
Very walk it in my pocket. Just I loved how it just flowed, and even with the music, but it was kind of silly, if you will. It wasn't like brilliant, Shakespearean, if you will, but it was very fun. It was very animated, and towards what that, I like the Jackalope, what he was doing, and just kind of how he came in and just changed the narrative, but we still fell, like Andy said, with that cadence. So yeah, I went with two different things there, but that's kind of what I wrote down. Seuss, just the whole idea of how it flows and the Seuss.
Andy, what's your second like?
I liked the character of the Jackalope. I just liked the animation of it. I liked the hairstyle you mentioned before. I like the fact that we have a Jackalope, right? Of all the animals that we decided to put in here. I mean, every other animal's just kind of your run of the mill. Like, they have the sheep, you see the fish for a minute, you see the snake. I think the little the little gophers, or the things popping out of the ground.
Dogs.
Whatever they are, a prairie dog, and you have all of those things. But then a jackalope is the one that we pick out of this, and it's just a cool look. It gave me, and this is very niche for me, but I'm a 90s, 2000s music fan, and in the early 2000s, my love of music was all about like emo music. And if you ever saw the music video for Sugar We're Going Down by Fall Out Boy, the guy with the antlers, immediately my brain went to that music video when I see the Jackalope. Obviously, he's the one teaching the lesson, and I just loved everything about his character. I thought he was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he kind of reminded me of, and I actually went and looked up the narrator and all of that, because I was like, man, it kind of just sounds like and looks like John Goodman. Like who is doing this?
Yeah.
And then I read Bud Lucky, and I was like, I don't really know him too well, and I went and looked up some of the facts you gave. But yeah, I liked him a lot.
Yeah. My second like for this actually is also the Jackalope, because for one thing, I just like jackalopes.
There's only so much you can find that you like and dislike.
Right.
So
this was the first time I think I'd ever heard of a jackalope was when I watched this right before watching The Incredibles back in the day. And I remember thinking, this is a cool animal. And I then became disappointed when I looked up where these were and found out they were entirely fictional. I just love that we have a jackalope in this. He just seems like just your normal, average, everyday guy, even though he's, a rabbit with antlers.
So I do have a fun story to add to that, because when I was in the military, when I was in basic training in San Antonio, there was a couple large jackrabbits, right?
Yeah.
And our TI drill sergeant, if you will, technical instructor, our TI would always have this mythical lore that there were jackalopes around, and I had never heard of this such animal, and we don't have the internet to look it up, and then we're like, what the hell is a jackalope, right? Like what is that? And we're all like waiting, but you see these big, massive, and so when I years later I looked it up and I was like, oh, this is just a mythical thing he was running with, and then
but they go back a long ways.
Or like somebody stuffing it and then putting antlers on it, and you're like, oh, that's where it's all kind of coming from. But yeah, that's a fun thing.
So Kirk, what is your third like for this?
Well, my third like is honestly the message. Right, Andy and I are both pastors. We're both kind of we kind of love a good story, and I just envision seeing this as something that you could kind of use when you're talking to the youth or children as a message to bring you into a good Sunday service for the kids. I'm talking about a rebound, like the kids up. I mean, you see the lamb is upset and the lamb that's slain. And I was just thinking of that and all these things about it, and then how it rebounds. Right. And so as a Christian, I just thought it was fun, and I saw some really cool parallels, and I do that often when I see this being this side of the cross. So anyway, that's kind of where I would land with that.
I think for my third like, man, Kirk, so let's just say this: the short is 6 minutes. To find, we're finding a like and a dislike per minute in this thing.
Pretty much.
I mean, there's only so much you can do, but it's right along those lines with you, Kirk, is this overall message, and really what I gained from it. I love, you're way more spiritual than me in doing that, but just a good life lesson here of sometimes we need someone to come along and to help us just change our perspective on things, right? So the sheep gets sheared, and obviously he's down on his luck, and he's woe is me, I can't do anything, we got all these other animals around me kind of laughing at me, making fun and all this stuff, and he's like, hey, yeah, you might be that, you might be pink and whatever, but check this out,
pink like in the think and the dink or whatever.
Yeah right,
you got a pink kink in your think.
Kink in your think.
But instead of focusing on what you can't do or what you don't have, here's what you can do. It's just just a good, heartwarming message. In order to get that in 6 minutes, it's just good, man. It's good writing. It's simple enough, but it carries a really good message. So yeah, the message itself, man. That's my third like.
We call that a Crushmore.
Yeah.
Well, let's continue that Crushmore actually.
Oh!
Because my third one was the message. Yeah, this is just good life advice. What the story's given. I would put the little proviso that if you are actually suffering from depression and you can't just put a kick in your step and bounce back up, don't take that personally. Go get you some help. Because literally that was one of my first thoughts. Like, well, yeah, if you're just feeling blue and feeling down, this really is kind of all you have to do. Of course, if you're really suffering from depression, that's a different story.
Get up on bound and rebound up in the bound.
Yeah, well, this is basically a pull yourself up by your bootstraps kind of a message.
Yep.
But yeah, sometimes that doesn't work, and sometimes it's harder to get your mind around that as someone who dealt with being picked on as a kid. But I really do like the message here for the most part, because sometimes you do just have to pick yourself up and keep going and just not care what other people are laughing at.
Yeah, it's a good one, man. Lots of Crushmores hanging out here, man. Good stuff.
Man, well, I mean,
sometimes it works that way.
As I was going through
it helps, like you said, we only have 6 minutes.
I was sitting there going, man, I really wonder what they're going to pick. Yeah. And, anyways, so I mean, it's good, but when I like that frog. I mean, like, okay, so.
Now we need to head into our dislikes, which I have a feeling we all had trouble here tonight with dislikes for these two shorts. Kirk, what's your first one?
Yeah, you mentioned it. To be honest, there, when you hear about the message part, the first thing that I've watched it like 2.5 times just to kind of really get it again, and I was trying to think. Okay, I get the metaphor of get back up and do, but in my mind, just looking at it very, very literally, I was like, how is jumping around that rock going to help him about being upset about being shaved? I mean, like, just like the whole, I felt like I loved the message, but I think it could have chose a different like avenue, like a different way of showing that. Because all of a sudden, he goes from dancing and all of a sudden, if you can jump, then you're good. And I was just like, he's a whale. He's not a frog. He's not something that normally jumps. So I was trying to just kind of put those pieces together.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think if you take it too literally, it does give you some issues there.
Right.
But
again, trying to piece together 6 minutes and find some negativity.
Right, exactly. Andy, what's your first dislike?
Yeah, so here's the deal. These are stretches because there wasn't a ton that I disliked about it, but if I overthink it, this is what I would go for.
Overthinking is what this show is for.
Here you go.
That's
kind of how I felt. I'm overthinking that.
I am a severe underthinker, so it's hard to overthink things. But I tried for the sake of this show. But here's the deal. So my first one, it's just a thing I just didn't get. So the scene is set in the wild, essentially, right? Like this is in the wild. This is not
somewhere in the New Mexico desert, I'm assuming.
For sure, right? But it doesn't look like there's much civilization around. It certainly doesn't look like this is on a farm or anything. Why in the world did they drive to this random spot in the wild to shear one sheep? Why? What's the point of it? Listen, now here's the deal. Let me just say this.
You got to get those few pennies.
In my mind, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense in my mind. But if someone would educate me, is this what you do as a sheep, as a wool enthusiast? Do you just drive around and find one? Is it like scrap metal? Is it?
I have a rationalization for this.
Help me make sense of this.
My assumption is this is not the only sheep in this area. It's just the only one they bothered to animate.
But
if your sheep are scattered all across creation, you're not going to be walking out to them. Sure, in the old days you'd be on a horse. Here they've got an old Model T that heaven only knows how it's still running at this time.
Right. Yeah. And like, so you sheared the sheep, but you didn't cast out for the fish that are there. Like you didn't. It was the one sheep. That was what we wasted gas. This was in 2003, so gas prices weren't quite where they are now. I'm going to give you that.
But you notice they left no wool on this sheep. You actually look at how they shear sheep. They leave some wool because you don't want to get too close and cut them.
Right,
they just got every single fiber off this sheep. Surprised he could grow it back.
Yeah. Just didn't make sense to me. It feels like a wasted trip to just shear a sheep. But that's my first dislike.
My first dislike, and I did allude to it earlier, is that Jackalopes don't actually exist. And the reason I say that is the last line of this short is, isn't it great to know that jackalopes are around, or something to that effect?
Yeah.
I go, but they're not. They don't exist. The only place you're going to find them is in an old taxidermist shop.
Well, the good news is if you can find one, he is going to help you out.
You know that for sure.
Maybe so. But yeah, unfortunately, they don't exist. And I kind of dislike that.
It's like a dark message that we have now. We're always looking for hope that doesn't exist.
I could see that.
They got real deep.
Man.
Kirk, what's your second dislike?
So, Andy, I mean, it's a well-known fact. You've listened to the 108 episodes of our show that we do land on the same things very often. That's hence the reason why we're friends. But I was saving that one to the end because I thought nobody was. I said the story's kind of confusing with the lamb. Is the lamb wild? If the lamb is wild, why are you driving out just to get that one lamb? And then when you got the one lamb, it was in the daytime. Did you drive it all the way back to civilization and drive it all the way back out to the wild?
You don't understand.
Because when it came back, it was raining and dark. So you went and did this whole trip for that one lamb. If it isn't in the wild and Drew, like you're saying, there are more sheep around, and this is some kind of farm, why did you have to drive all the way out there and get the lamb? Like, it's just one little lamb. Why? What is happening?
I do know that sheep, at least modern sheep, after we've had them domesticated for so long, their wool doesn't come out very easy. So if you don't go and shear them, it's actually not healthy for them.
Right.
And considering they did just come out for this one sheep, for the sake of this one sheep, they left the 99.
Yeah, there it is. Boom. We got another message.
There's your spiritual message.
Yes. Yes.
For the one.
All for the
anyway.
one.
Oh, man.
Andy, what's your second dislike?
I did not realize I was going to laugh this hard for this shorts.
All right, to
man.
my
Andy,
second,
I think you're up, man.
To my second one. Now, let's take a little flashback here, okay? Cellcast, Drew, you were a part of the Culture Box, right? So we have really good friends, Francisco and Paul from Retro Rewind. Now, we were invited.
Who've already been on by the time this airs.
Yeah, absolutely. We love them. We were on their show quite a while back, around Christmas time, and we reviewed Rudolph. The red-nosed reindeer, right? And one of the
ironically, we reviewed it 2 weeks later.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the knocks that we had on that particular one kind of resembles what happens here, and it just bothers me. Mm-hmm. All of the surrounding animals, the fish, the snake, the prairie dogs, all of these things were laughing and making fun of this sheep that was naked, right? But the minute they were like, "Oh, he can jump high," they loved him and they joined in the chorus. It's like, well, if he can't do anything for me, if he's not entertaining, I don't care. Oh, what? He jumps higher than he did before? He's amazing, and I love him. And we didn't. Not only, and here's the deal. Not only, and I get it's a short. Not only the fact that happened, that they loved him because he could do something cool, but the fact that it wasn't addressed at all. Nothing was thought about it. There's a lesson there that can be had.
At all.
At all. No one talked about it. He wasn't dressed, and
he wasn't dressed at all either.
Yeah. So it just is a thing that bothers me. Like, if you're gonna love him, not just because of what he can do. There you go.
Great message. We're using this.
Yeah.
I've got my next 6 Wednesdays planned out on Boundin. We're bound in our chains of sin sometimes, but we need someone to come loose them. There you go. There's another one.
I'm so glad I could give you sermon material. Anyway, this is the one little technical thing, that I have, and admittedly, I will admit I am nitpicking, but with all the bounciness in this particular short, there's not a lot of it feels very stiff. Now, admittedly, this is 2004. Computer animation was barely a toddler at this point.
Right.
To some degree, you kind of have to accept its limitations and be amazed for what they were able to do under those limitations. I agree with this statements, but at the same time, I'm watching this and going, it really does just look like there's no squash and stretch here at all. It really does feel like plastic toys kind of bouncing up and down, which is fine stylistically. And yeah, it was the best they could do at the time, but I wish there was a little bit more. I just wish it wasn't as stiff as it was. So
you say that, and you say, hey, it's 2004 technology. And I agree with you. Absolutely. But we have to remember, this came out simultaneously with Incredibles, which was good. And not only was it not stiff, there literally was a main character named Elastigirl. So
I agree with this.
We have things that we can do.
I do agree with this. Don't get me wrong. I do know that the shorts had a much smaller budget than the movies did, and not all of that is just for the length.
But all of that money you need to spend in 6 minutes, is it the same amount you need to spend for an hour and a half? I don't know how that works. So I think you could have managed it.
It's going to depend on... Well, for one thing, it's going to depend on server space because all that has to be rendered. And if the bulk of what you're making is going towards rendering Incredibles versus this one little 6-minute short that's going to play in front of it, that admittedly, they're going to try and submit this for an Academy Award because that's what you do. But it's still going to be amazing. And it was still, I remember when I saw this in theater, and I remember being amazed at the time. So, I'm going with lower budgets and probably not as important at the render farm as being the reasons.
All right. Well, I'm just trying to not let them off the hook so easy here. Okay. They knew what they could do.
Oh yeah, I agree with you. We'll get to another one where you can tell they were let off the chain a little bit with what they were able to pull off. But this one, it's just, this is 2004. It's still stiff. It's just not as good as it could be, basically. And a lot of that I'm attributing to the fact that it really does feel like plastic statues bouncing up and down. So. Yeah. Kirk, what's your third dislike?
Yeah, kind of on the same lines, but not as wonderful as this looked. It was appeasing in many ways. The water, the desert, even at this, especially at this time, the rain scene looked great. I was really thrown off by the look of the lamb, both shaved and unshaved, and then and just in comparison to the rest of the animation, the fish looked kind of really cool. Those gophers and the owl, they kind of looked real similar, burrowing out.
That's because they were actually the same model. They just modified the owl to be a little different. But yeah, they literally copy and pasted a gopher to be the owl.
The jackalope looked really interesting. Usually the few times I've seen one, they usually use a pretty skinny guy, and it was heavy, and it was just showing that. But the skinny lamb, I don't know. It just wasn't appeasing to me. The way they did the fur, I'm kind of nitpicking here, but I loved a lot of it. But I was just like, it just looks off. There was just something off about it, and that might have been what they were going for, to make that kind of feel like that.
I can feel the naked version of the sheep. They were going for more like, look at this, kind of a loser kind of a feel to it. Yeah. But you're right that even when he has the wool on before he's sheared, he doesn't really look that much better.
Those eyes are they're never all the way open.
He looks like Dobby from Harry Potter or something.
Yeah, he does. If this was the inspiration that Warner Brothers did for Dobby, I would not be surprised.
They saw this movie in theaters and wait a minute, let's get a sketch pad.
Me.
All right.
Andy, what's your third and final dislike for this?
I'm stretching here, man, because I really did. As much as we laugh and we joke, these things that we're nitpicking, I liked this. I did. I really liked this. But again, rules of the game, I got to find 3 dislikes. And this probably doesn't register for anyone who is not familiar with Louisiana. But here's what I disliked. The title, Boundin. You know why? Because it was way too close put Boudin, and I thought that I was going to watch a short about Boudin, and I got hungry, and I didn't have any of it. So that would be my third and final dislike.
Oh me, oh my!
I could go for some Boudin. If you don't know what it is, if you've never had it, do yourself a favor.
Quit making me hungry.
Bounding, because the whole time I'm trying to figure out what bounding even means or has to do with it. And then he said it, Boundin, and then he said rebounding, and then he went back to Boundin, and I was like, oh, I guess it's short for rebounding, which is a jump.
It's short for a jump, basically. Right. It's another word for jump.
And so it took me a second even
like a leap and a bound, yeah.
Yeah.
But
it is weird. Yeah.
I would have loved the short on Boudin. That would have been nice.
Yes,
that would right. It is weird that they chose Boundin as the term, since you never hear the word bound by itself.
In that context, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like yeah.
I mean, if you're bound and determined, yeah, I could see that. But
yeah.
Anyway,
I'm bound.
Rebound, bound to. Yeah, I don't know. But I wanted to be Boudin, so that was it.
Right. My third and final like for this. This is the only thing that Bud Lucky ever directed, and I think that's a shame.
Oh.
The only other thing that's listed on his IMDb for directing is literally this short again, but as a part of the Pixar shorts collection, which I don't think should count. But I just hate that this is like the only thing he ever directed. I know he did a lot of other stuff there at Pixar and helped in the animation department a lot. But the fact that this is the only thing he directed from beginning to end, I wish he'd have done more, because I think he did a good job with this, and I do want to see more from him. But unfortunately, he passed in 2018, and that time has passed.
Well, that's what I was going to say. My next question would have been, did he pass shortly after this?
It was not till 2018, so he had time. I mean, he voiced Eeyore in 2011, so.
Well,
R.I.P. Bud Lucky.
I enjoyed it.
Anyway, we do have to rate this thing, and of course we use a 10-point scale rounded to the nearest half. Kirk, what are you rating this?
Yeah, if I'm going shorts, right, and you put it all in the, I enjoyed it. So I wouldn't give it a 10. It's not the greatest short ever. I kind of tried to avoid some of those because I thought you may have already done those. Knowing that you haven't done any of those, I might have picked a 10 Pixar, but I'm going to go with probably a 7.5.
Okay.
7.5. Middle of the high side.
No problem there. Andy?
I'm nitpicking here, and again, I'm going to do the similar. In the world of Pixar shorts, do I want to go watch it again? Like, if I'm flipping through Disney Plus, I'm like, oh, I got time for a short. Let me put that on, right?
That's a good.
No, I'm not. I'm probably not. There's other ones I'm definitely going to first. And I think a lot of it, because part of your dislike is it's 2003, 2004. It's kind of those older ones. They've just done so much more as of late with with these shorts. This kind of falls back in the catalog for me, and it becomes one that, if it happens to be on, cool. So with that in mind, a ranking for me, again, I think it's above mid. So we're going to be over 5, right? But yeah, I'm going to just give it a solid 6 is where I'm going to go for this. It's. And it's okay. It's not bad. It's better than bad. It's going to be a 6 for me.
So I am actually rating this an 8. This is actually one of my favorite shorts from this time period of Pixar. It's not what I go to on a regular basis, just because I don't watch a lot of the theatrical shorts on a regular basis. But if I ever go and watch The Incredibles, I watch this short first because I feel that's almost part of it. I give it an 8 just because I think this is a good fun one. And I remember this being one of my favorites from when I was I say a kid. This is the year I graduated from high school, but it feels like I was still a kid then.
Can I just add to that?
Sure.
When you asked to pick these, and originally we thought we were going with one, which then we decided to do 2 and all that.
I admit I probably did not communicate some of this very clearly.
That's good, but I immediately, the first one that popped to my mind to go and look to see if it was available, in the Disney Plus or whatever areas to find, was this one. And so it did have an impact back that it did when I originally seen it. But admittedly, like Andy said, I haven't watched it very often since then. And it was the first time that I've seen it in a very long time. And will I go back and watch it? I don't know that I would watch it tremendously again. But I do remember it being breathtaking and being like, wow, that was a really cool 6 minutes before the movie. Right.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what drew me to it. That's why I leaned my score. And I can see why, you guys picked your score.
I mean, this is probably the first one of these shorts that actually made me excited to see the short before the movie. Some of the others I remember seeing and going, that was cute. That was, But then I go, this one's like, wow, that's actually really good. I hope the rest of the movie can actually live up to what the short just did. And it actually blows it out of the water, in my opinion. But yeah, go listen to that episode of the Cellcast, because we did already review The Incredibles once. But yeah, on that note, let's go ahead and hit the bumpers, pay some bills, and we'll hit the next one.
This podcast is a proud member of Culture Box. Whether you enjoy geeky reviews, comedy, or original fiction, you can open up the Culture Box and find something excellent for your soul. Point your web browser to culturebox.media.
This week, we suggest checking out The Rushmore Show. The Rushmore Show is the place for ranking the ultimate top 4 in sports, video games, nostalgia, movies, and so much more. Each week, Andy and Kirk spark engaging discussions and friendly debates, making The Rushmore Show your compass in the realm of pop culture rankings. You can find them on their YouTube channel, The Rushmore Show, where it's all about your top 4 and nothing more. Cellcast would also like to thank the following patrons: Ashley and Francisco Ruiz, PaulJPowers.com, and the Monster Island Film Vault. If you would like your name shouted out on the show, some special art from Jacob, and uncut episodes, please donate to us on Patreon. All right. So, how about some lava, gentlemen?
Woo!
Lava was written and directed by James Ford Murphy. In this one, they're a lonely volcano seeking someone to lava, basically. I just said that completely wrong. Let me start that over. I wrote that like it was a singles ad and then didn't even say it like a singles ad. Lonely volcano seeking same to lava. The cast for this one was, and I'm just going to go ahead and say this right now. I'm about to say a lot of Hawaiian names. Forgive me, I'm probably going to screw them up. Kuana Torres Kahele played the narrator and Uku, which was the male volcano, and Napua Grieg played Lele, the female volcano. And if you couldn't figure that out, the volcanoes' names are a play on ukulele, which you just heard in the intermission.
Yeah, fitting.
This short film played right before Inside Out in 2015. The director had wanted to make a film about Hawaii and its culture since he honeymooned there in 1989. The plot became a bit more focused when Murphy visited Hawaii in 2011 and learned of the existence of Loihi, an underwater volcano that is growing next to the Big Island and will eventually merge with it. Murphy reflected on the situation and decided to do a love story about volcanoes. The director said that the character Uku is based on the late Hawaiian musician and entertainer Israel Kamakawiwo'oli. I know I said that name wrong. Like him, Uku is musically gifted gentle giant. Fun fact, Uku actually means head lice in Hawaiian pidgin. So Kuwana really hoped that no one would just call him that after the short came out.
My name is Head Lice, but people call me Uku.
Yeah. Anyway,
at school, Dennis the Menace, he got upset. I can't imagine.
Andy, since this was your pick, why don't you start us off with your first like for this?
Yeah. I picked this one. This is the one that I won't spoil a lot in a little bit, but let me just say this. My like is just overall the animation of this. Mm-hmm. The opening scene when it's drifting over the hillside and everything, and you see the trees and the wildlife and the water and just everything, it very much reminds me and is reminiscent. And Kirk, you just went here, but at Disney World, Soarin'. It's almost like you're flying through this thing and you just feel this. So just the overall landscape, the beauty of the animation in this, I love this, the style and everything that you see in this. Again, this is now, 10 years later than the one that we just reviewed in Boundin. So you see that progression of just over 10 years, what now can be done in this, and just how rapid this technological growth is in the animation side of things. So, yeah, I love the animation. I just love the art. I love all of that with Lava.
Kirk, what's your first like?
I'm just going to keep the trend going because here's the deal. As a kid, I thought I was going to be an artist, and not an artist that necessarily would have a starving life and paint portraits or whatever. But I loved comic books, I loved cartoons, and I loved video games, and I wanted to do stuff in there. And when I first saw the beginning of this, and I had it down for my number 3, and I'm just jumping to the bottom to make sure that just so we don't spoil things, since you're bringing it up. I said just beautiful artistry of the intro, and the thing is, it is mind-boggling where animation has come. Right? Earlier, you mentioned thinking about a Looney Tunes or Merry Melodies, and as impactful and nostalgic as those are, I mean, they weren't beautiful, to say the least. I mean, like the backgrounds were all the same thing over and over and over. Just seeing.
I need to introduce you to some more then.
Yeah, but seeing to the turtles in the birds and everything, it's like
dolphins.
Wow, like this is absolutely insane. And not that the artistry wasn't bad.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
It advanced so much, right? And even now today, it's just even better. Same with video games. Same with everything. Like you're just like, I mean, how much better can we get this? And it's just so insane. So insane.
So since we're talking about the design of everything, I'll go ahead and go to my number 2, which was actually the design of both the volcanoes. I just normally when people are trying to show like something is big, they'll animate stuff like small, like slow, like they're having a hard time moving. Except this, I mean, they're singing. The animation for them singing is at the speed of the song, of course, and yet it still feels like they're heavy rocks that are moving.
Yeah,
strangely enough, I don't know a better way to put it than that. And I love the weight and the solid rock of these volcanoes. It actually, you were talking earlier about how much the technology has changed, but the fact that this actually looks like, it's obviously not realistic volcanoes, but it kind of has that look of a realistic volcano to it.
Yeah.
Both of them do, and so it really felt like I was there, strangely enough. So yeah, the designs of the volcanoes really is my first like for this. Andy, what's your second?
So I am not a fan of musicals that involve live action. But I do love cartoons that are in turn musicals. For whatever reason, it just makes more sense to me. And I say that because I love that this whole short is centered around one song. But not only that, there's just so many intricacies in this, right? It's a simple song. It's ukulele. It's this love song that's being sung, but so many things that change. When the mood is happy in this song, the tempo picks up. When it's sad, it slows down, but it's still the same song, the same chords, the same everything. It's almost like this artwork of a song that you see through these 9 minutes that this short is. But then you have the female, you have Lele, who joins in singing too, and is singing these lyrics as well. And you just have so much for such a simple song. There's so many little intricacies in it that are just I really appreciate. I love the ukulele. I love that whole Hawaiian theme vibe of this song. Obviously, it fits the setting of the short, right? But it would be weird to have like a heavy metal song played to this, but like it fits here. Or like a country song, but then like it fits here, obviously. So I just love the song, right? I love that it flows from beginning to end, and it's just one big picture that we're getting of this love story.
Yeah, you are. You're a musician. You play multiple instruments aside from just being a drummer. You know music. And so you're looking at it at a technical side. Me, I'm just looking at it as a fan. And looking at the music, I've talked about this before. I am a sucker for a couple different instruments out there in the world. And if you sing me a great island feeling song with a ukulele, I am sold. Like, it's like you had me at the first string, right? Boom. But I just love a ukulele. Like, there's a couple, I was trying to just look them up while you were talking of, whether it's Over the Rainbow, which is one of the big ones. But like,
that's classic.
More contemporary stuff that's come recently, like the one with Curious George, right?
Jack Johnson.
Jack Johnson. That's
you love Jack Johnson.
Jimmy Johnson, and that's the race car driver, Jack Johnson.
I love Jack Johnson.
I just love that style. It's something that I would love to just sit back and have some friends over, put it in the background, and I just can't be upset with it. Like, it's just fun. It's lively. It's just great. I love ukulele. I love that. If I was to play an instrument, I would love to learn to play the ukulele.
So I don't know if y'all know this, but that's actually me playing the ukulele during the intermission.
Nice.
It's about the only thing I figured out how to do, and I think I've forgotten how I did that. So, because I have a bad habit of not practicing. So yeah, my
awesome,
my second dislike for. We're not on dislikes. What am I saying?
Don't jump the gun yet.
Sorry.
Positive.
Yeah. My second like for this actually is the song. We are all of the same mind tonight, which is scary. This is such a beautiful song, and it fits everything they're doing here. And like you said, the Hawaiian music, it just fits this like to a T, even though this may or may not be Hawaii, even though it's supposed to be, basically. And yeah, it just fits this perfectly. And I'll talk more about this later, but I haven't gotten it out of my head since I watched this a couple days ago. Yeah, that's my second like for this.
Yeah.
Andy, what's your third?
All right, so I'm going to keep
Gotta do it. I'll be upset if you don't.
So simple here. I have 3 daughters, and having 3 daughters, obviously I'm a dad. What comes along with dad is dad jokes, and just the thought of "I lava you." It just is a perfect fitting dad joke in here. I lava you. Like, it's such a good Man, anytime you can put a nicely, well-timed dad joke out there, because here's the thing, there's an art to it, right? There's people don't want to say this, but you can't just throw every single one that comes to your head, because if I did, there's a million brewing in my head at all times. You have to know when is the right time, and as the highlight, the pinnacle of this song in this short, "I Love You" is cherry on the top of the short.
I mean, I'm just going to jump in. It's mine.
No,
it's my
it's your next one anyway.
You rolled them backwards. I was going to give you this one first because I figured that's where you were going to go, Andy. I was like, whatever. But here's the deal. I am a sucker for a great pun. And it's just like a ukulele and a pun. You put them together. It makes this thing tremendous. Tremendous. But here's the thing. I didn't realize, because it's been a minute since I've seen this. And so I was almost shocked when they said it. And I was like, wait, rewind? Did they just say I love you? I'm loving it. I love it. It's got to be one of mine. And then I can't unhear it now. I can't unhear it. But the original time I was just like, oh, I love you. Yeah. Oh, I love you. Uh-oh. This is good. Yeah. So my number 3, I guess, what probably my favorite is the pun, man. I love witty writing. Mm-hmm. Some of the best cartoons ever is when you're watching it and you're like, they didn't just write this out. They thought this through. Like they put in effort to build a story that not just to have simple dialogue. And that just blows my mind when they do those things. This was just even more simple. It was like, hey, we're going to call it lava. Instead of saying love, let's say lava. That's perfect. And it fits it perfect. It explains the whole story in 3 words.
All right. My third like for this, it's probably going to make me sound a little pathetic, I'll admit. I love the sense of hope this has, that there's a person out there for everybody. And I'm saying this as a 38-year-old male who does not have a significant other, has never even been on a date, and whose friend is getting married. And so you can imagine there's a little bit of that, I'm not going to say hopelessness, but disappointment maybe that I have not found somebody yet. And I don't know, this, as I've gotten older, silly romance things like this kind of hit me differently. And so I really just kind of love the sense of hope I get from watching this short. So yeah, that's my third like for this, is the sense of hope.
Hey, throw this out there. You said you were going to sound like, cringy or whatever it is. I'm going to tell you, there's never, it's never too late, that type of thing. But
right.
I think of the word. But here's the deal: being someone who is a member of a church that's just multicultural, a school that's multicultural, lots of things that are going on. You often see some connections that you just be shocked about, and I can feel this pain because I don't like to be lonely. And look, me and my wife were separate. It was torrential for me. Oh my gosh! So I can feel your pain, and especially when you see your friends kind of going through it. And I'm gonna.
Don't get me wrong. I am happy for Jacob.
Oh yeah, but
I would even go so far as I'm jealous of him. But but yeah. I'm looking forward to when I can be in his position.
Yeah. With that being said, as brothers in Christ, I know that I'll be praying for you, and I'm pretty sure Andy will be too, because I want that for you more than anything. That's awesome.
All right.
Anyway, now that it kind of transitions us to our negative thoughts on this. Andy, what's your first dislike for Lava?
I have
if you can find one.
It's a perfect short. Skip me. No, I'm just kidding. I came up with 3, and I wanted to follow the rules here.
Right.
You mentioned this, Drew, that you like the animation of the volcanoes, and I think the one thing that creeps me out is that they've done everything to make it human-like, but the volcano has no nose. And it's like it's missing a nose, and it's a weird nitpick thing. but it freaks me out.
Neither one of them has a nose now that you say that.
It freaks me out. You have a mouth. You took the time to give it an eye, a mouth, a name, a backstory, and everything.
Eyebrows.
Everything. It just can't smell. And, so I just...
they hadn't had any lava go down there and build that art.
You would be so tempted if you were animating that to have lava coming out of that, and it would look like he had a bloody nose the whole time.
Yeah, but here's my thing: is that to be a singer, which this is all about, you have to utilize some nasal passages. So it makes it a little bit unbelievable, because everything else up to this point was believable, but it was the nose. No, yeah, it's just.
I'm sorry. You just said a short about two volcanoes singing was believable, and I get what you're saying, but my first thought was that's like the one thing that kills it for you. Singing volcanoes, but they don't have noses, so they shouldn't be singing.
Now I can't believe it.
Yeah, and Andy, I'm kind of on the same path. Obviously, again, we're on the same wavelength, but something different. I didn't even realize I didn't have noses. But to me, I feel like the male volcano and the female volcano were completely different styles of art. The female looks very Moana-esque, very fully anthropomorphic type thing. And then the male one is just this big wide face on it. Like it's just it doesn't feel like, and maybe that's what they were going for, but the animation was great. I just felt like the male could have looked more like the female, or the female could have looked more like the male, like, and not being this like they were like brothers and sisters, but it felt like two different cartoons, like different artists or different something like that.
Yeah,
I get you. My first dislike for this, and it is strangely enough something that does kind of take away from it, even though it doesn't, the inconsistent time shown in this short. When you go on Disney Plus and you look at their description, their synopsis for this, it says this is a love story that took millions of years. Except it looks like after he sang for years and years, the rest of the short took place in a day. And there's a lot of him shrinking down, her rising up quickly, and him crying causing the sea to rise. And I'm going, I don't think it works quite this fast, guys. Now, granted, it's a cartoon. You're not supposed to take it this seriously. I understand that. But you already prepped me by saying this took place over the course of millions of years. And I can only say that's true up until he sang near his extinction. After that point, it looks like it took place in the course of maybe 5 hours. Maybe.
Yeah.
That's a weird thing, I'll admit. But yeah, that's my first dislike for this.
It's very old Earth creationism. Like it's short time that's supposed to be depicting very long time. And I feel that.
Except it goes into like young Earth creationism in the last half.
At the end, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like pick a lane. If you're gonna pull one version of how the Earth was made, go stick with just one. Don't pull from both. This is an intelligent design.
Knowing that this was a million years, that is a long song. That's a long time to play ukulele.
That is a very long song.
Without a nose, either. How can he do it? That's crazy.
He's got to be breathing out the top.
Maybe so. Well, maybe because it's a volcano, that does count as it. Maybe
it's like a blowhole on a whale.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Andy, what's your next dislike for this?
All right, follow me here. Okay, so we open up. We've got Uku, right? We've got him singing, doing his, and there's this female. There's Lele is underwater, right? Now she sprouts up, and she's facing away from him. Correct? He gets all sad because she can't see, she can't turn. Blah blah blah. We're explaining the whole short here. He goes under, and then comes back up. But when he sprouts back up, they're now one. mountain. So
I'm
was it the
assuming
same-
there's another time jump there.
Yeah,
somehow?
but nothing gets explained, and it's like I don't think, and I'm not an expert, that's how geology works. That just one becomes another part of another mountain. Like, is this what's happened? Like, it went under, now it's back, but now they're like an intertwined double volcano.
I did take a geology course in college.
Educate me.
I will do what I can.
Okay, you're better than me and Kirk.
I do know that I heard about the inspiration for this the volcano Loihi, although I won't think it was called that at that time, or the name's changed since then. I don't remember which. Anyway, it is growing like off the southeastern side of the Big Island. In fact, the Big Island is actually made up of 3 different volcanoes, not counting that one. So it is possible for those to grow and to merge. So that part at the end, I can kind of live with. And as he would, as he erodes, I mean, yeah, he comes down, turns into an atoll, and eventually shrinks beneath, which is what volcanic islands do. There's a ton of them in the Hawaiian volcano chain that goes out way far back, as that hot spot, as that tectonic plate has glided over that hot spot. Some of this I have issues with, but I'm not going there. But the hot spot's the big problem here, because if that's the theory they're using, the hot spot under him technically went dead, or he's moved off the hot spot. That's why he's went extinct. And while I could be wrong, I don't think that type of volcano can go active again. So unless it flows over another hot spot while the structure hasn't been completely eroded away yet. So I know like you have Mount St. Helens, but that's on a fault line. That's a different type of volcano.
Again, let me just say this. 25 years ago, I didn't think 45-year-old Kirk would be talking about a cartoon in such a way. But what I gathered from it was that his singing and his love story grew the volcano, and then her singing grew it back. So,
and I get that.
Why? But on a more like Boundin side, like there is hope. Like there is, and what you were saying is that lava brings that back, and so that you can rekindle.
My point is
I get that, believe it or not.
Here's my thing, and I get all of that. I like that. That's what makes this short enjoyable and why we love it, right? But I'm just thinking physical location. This one's here, faced away. This
how did it turn around?
It goes down,
because when she was underwater, she was facing him.
Right, but there's just continuity issues, I think, for that. And then I think for them to have merged, imagine she's facing this way, away from him, and then when he came back up, he's here. Does it move that far?
No, volcanoes don't normally move. The tectonic plate they're sitting on does, but it's going to move in relation to the other one. It's not going to turn around.
That's my point, is that it totally changed location and direction.
Yeah.
Again, I gotta find a dislike. So that was
granted, they're cartoon volcanoes. We're thinking about it too hard.
Yeah, well,
I know.
Well, let me just throw another twist in there with my next dislike. I'm actually skipping my next one and going to my third because of what you're talking about and giving us some continuity for this. Where's the third volcano? That's what I was expecting the whole time. Like, you bring the two together, we should have had a little baby.
It's gonna grow up in that bay in between them.
Yeah, in that little bay. I was expecting it to end with like a little, just like a puff of smoke or a little.
I could see that.
And I was like, that's what I was expecting. We're together now. Now we're gonna build a bigger family and have a third. Yeah, that's what I was waiting for.
If this was somehow like a romantic folklorish like thing of how the Big Island in Hawaii, which actually is the island of Hawaii, by the way, if it was how that island came about, I would be fine with it, them doing that. I don't know why they didn't do that, to be honest. But anyway,
Yeah.
my second dislike for this, somehow watching this short on my nice 50-inch television in my apartment is not quite as impressive as watching it in the theater was. I kind of miss that I had that I'm not watching this in a theater, because I remember, like you were saying with Soarin', that the feeling like you were flying over this landscape as the camera was moving, and I'm sitting here going, it doesn't quite have that same effect on this screen. Even though I have a nice big screen, it just doesn't quite have that effect. So yeah, I wish it felt more like it did in the theater, I guess.
Yeah, I could see that. I think, I don't know. I enjoyed mine. Watching it again, I think I just have enough.
I loved it.
I love it.
Admittedly, I'm trying to come up with dislikes, and I had a hard time with these tonight.
Yeah.
So people out there, you need to
I can
invest.
tell you my next
Patreons,
dislike
look, check this out.
is legit.
Patrons need to buy Drew a bigger, nicer TV to help him enjoy these shorts even better.
Buy me that 150-inch television that you can only get if you live in China.
It's for content, people. Come on.
Actually, just join on the Patreon and let us have some money. I'll take that.
Yeah, there you go.
But anyway, Andy, what's your final dislike for this?
All right, segue here. This came out right before Inside Out, which goes into why I'm picking this as my dislike. Inside Out, if you've seen it, has to do with all these emotions. Here's my dislike. How in the world, or why in the world, did two volcanoes have me so emotional? Right? That's my dislike. I don't want to be so emotional watching two landforms and their love story and their lava story. It goes into your like, kind of what you were talking about, Drew, before. But to me, that's almost, it's just, and full disclosure, I am a crier when it comes to movies. If there's any emotion, I've cried in Forrest Gump. I cry every time I watch that movie. I cried in Dennis Quaid's The Rookie. I cried in so many movies.
I cried in The Natural when the ball, when the place exploded.
Yeah, right. It just doesn't. It doesn't matter. So this one,
I cried at the end of Infinity War.
Yeah, well, if you didn't, you
Mr.
have
Stark,
no
I don't want to go.
No.
Well, yeah,
Oh
I
my
cried
God.
for Tony. I cried
That's
for
a
Tony,
bad one.
sure.
Yeah.
I cry in The Lion King when it's like, Dad, wake up, we gotta go. That's the worst.
Andy, I got one better. I cried in Super Mario Brothers.
Well, that's
and that was just because of nostalgic moment. Seeing it on the
it's
screen.
overwhelming, right?
I was like,
are we referring to the 90s Super Mario Brothers or the one that we reviewed this year?
Yeah. So, but to my dislike, it's like, dang it, I thought I was just going to watch a nice, enjoyable 9 minutes and get to my movie, but now I'm already emotional before the movie about emotions comes on.
Yeah.
I think they did that on purpose.
I just kind of wonder what the volcano's emotions looked like. Anyway.
Well, I'll finish it off with my third dislike, and this is a small one. I'm grabbing straws throughout most of them, but this is the one that it just hit me immediately. I just felt it's a great song. Love the ukulele. Love the artistry. Love the story. All the things. I just felt that the volcano's voice didn't fit him. It's the male, like it was very high pitched.
Admittedly,
I felt like it should have been a lot more deeper, and that's the whole ukulele Hawaiian theme. I get it, but
well, I was about to say the person he's based on is a high tenor, and he's about as big as the volcano is.
That's what I'm saying. But watching the design of that, a big mountain of a man,
you expect it to be more of a bass.
I was like, okay. I'd
say something, but I'm a tenor. So
I didn't know honestly, I didn't know that the actual backstory. Just watching it as two mountains and not having any follow in, just original ideas. Like, why is it's yeah. I just would rather maybe artistically that it would have been a bass. All about that.
No trouble. Anyway, that's a reference that won't age gracefully.
It came out probably when this movie was coming out. This
probably. It already hasn't aged gracefully. My final dislike for this, and I alluded to this earlier back in my likes, I can't get this song out of my head. I'm not kidding. This morning, I am walking to the other building at work. I'm not even paying attention. All of a sudden, I realize I'm whistling the freaking song. Why is this song stuck in my head? It's such an earworm; it will not leave.
Yeah,
and it's. Don't get me wrong; it's a good song. I like the song. I just would like to hear a different song in my head.
We'll go watch Boundin and memorize that one.
That's actually battling it, if we're being honest. I need something else to knock both of them out of my head.
Gotcha.
But anyway, yeah, that's my third and final dislike. What are we rating this one, fellas? Andy?
I am so biased. I picked this for a reason. To my same sort of criteria that I ranked Boundin on. Am I rewatching it? Where do I rank it in the world of Pixar shorts? I have watched this. I don't even know how many times. My family loves it. We watch it every now and then. We'll just put this particular one on, and because of that, and I'm biased, I'm going 9.5 because nothing is perfect. Give me a 9.5. It's as close to. All three of my dislikes are just because of the rules of this show. I love the show. I love the short. I love it. It's so good. I'm only not going 10 because it just feels like now there can be nothing better. But I do think this is my favorite of all of the Pixar shorts by far.
Okay.
All right. Kirk?
Well, it's not my favorite. That one I would give a 10. It's not my favorite. And then there's probably one or two others that are at least in the neighborhood. But I would put this one on my volcano mountain of top 4, if you will. And I'm going to give it a solid 9 is where I was going. A little niner.
Right. So since this is going on your volcano, would that make it your caldera?
Sure. Whatever that means.
That's the name of a crater in a volcano.
Yeah, we'll take it.
Okay. I am actually giving this like an 8.5 also. This is a good short. I loved watching this in the theater. In fact, the more I think about it, I think this was the last one that Pixar put out that I enjoyed in the theater because for one thing, since 2020, we've only had 1 or 2 movies actually come out of Pixar's in theaters, and neither one of them had a short in front of it.
Right.
And they were kind of falling off after that they just weren't as good. But yeah, I really do enjoy this one. I remember enjoying it back then. I'm not rating it much higher than that because I think there are maybe a couple others that would be higher. I just can't think of their names right now. Actually, I can't think of one. Jack Attack. That one I do rate higher than this because it's just funny. But yeah, I am giving this an 8.5. So we're about to go into shameless self-promotion. But before we do that, if y'all want to give a shout out to Jacob and Ashley for their wedding, this is going to be the time to do that.
Jacob and Ashley, man, we were so happy for both of you. This is a monumental time in life, Rushmore Monument. There you go. But it's a great one. This is probably going to rank there in the top 4 things decisions you've ever made. I don't know how many more shameless self-promotions I can put within this too. But anyway, for real though, guys, congratulations. We're praying for your marriage, praying for your family, praying for all those things. Just so excited for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm thinking top 4 things that Jacob's ever done is actually having us on the show to do a Kung Fu Kangaroo and then maybe marrying his bride, Ashley. Hey, congratulations on everything. I have not got to physically meet either one of you guys, but knowing Jacob and seeing the journey online and all that, we are so excited for you and so happy, and we just wish you guys the best. And so, yeah, and we'll leave it at that.
All righty. So y'all are both from the Rushmore Show. Why don't y'all tell me about that?
Yeah,
even though I kind of already promoted y'all earlier in the podcast.
Yeah, we are the Rushmore Show. As it said earlier, our tagline is the top four and nothing more. But actually, it should be a top four and just a little bit more. We do ranking of movies, video games, nostalgia, sports, and music, and and one more. Yeah, food. I always forget food. So those are the things that we rank. 2 months apiece. We're in a series currently. Maybe not currently when this comes out, but January and February we did video games, and now March and April we are in music, and then the next 2 months will be in movies and TV. So we just rank our top four with guest hosts. We've had the Cellcast on. You can find us. You can find us on Spotify with our first 10 episodes. Hopefully, we'll backlog the rest of that. But the main spots that you can find us is obviously at culturebox.media, but YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. We go live every Friday night at about 7 o'clock, about the same time Cellcast is rolling through their show. And if there's ever a time where we're doing ministry or life with the family, we'll bump that show either up to Friday or pre-record it. So you can find most of our content at YouTube, and it usually comes out every Friday. And we just appreciate anybody that wants to come and jump on over. We call them the Summit Squad. And when you're there, leave your top four and just let us know where you found us. So that is us.
All righty. In that case, this has been Drew.
And Kirk.
And Andy.
And we'll catch you in the next frame.
You can follow Jacob on his Facebook at Jacob B. Heron. His Facebook page, Jacob's Daily Art Corner, where he tries to draw each and every day. His Instagram at Jacob B. Heron. His Twitter at Jacob Heron. And his Letterboxd at Jacob Heron. You can find Drew on Facebook at Drew Dodgen. His Facebook page, Drew's Photo Bin, to see his photography. His Letterboxd page at ggeorge759. His Twitter at ggeorge759. And Instagram at Drew Dodgen. You can like us on Facebook at the Cellcast Podcast. On Twitch at the Cellcast Gaming. On YouTube at Cellcast. On Twitter at cast_cell. The Cellcast can be found at Apple Podcasts, Google Play Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, or anywhere else fine podcasts are downloaded from. Please rate and review us where you found us, and also on Podchaser. Email us at thecellcastpodcast@gmail.com. The Cellcast is a proud member of both the Pop Americana and Culturebox media networks. For more information, please see the link in the description. Our theme song is Drop and Roll by Silent Partner. And remember, that's Cell with a single L.
So I guess you could say that those volcanoes had the hots for each other.
Oh!